Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 79. I'm Enigmaeus and today we're back with the Manta. We're working on the top of the Manta this episode and only the top of the Manta this episode. We've spent enough time in certain other areas. Right now what I want to do is basically get the top roughed in, get it as close as possible on the first pass to what I want it to look like. And then we can do the other areas of the ship that require completion. And then we'll do the final cosmetic pass. We'll take a look at everything and how everything is coming together and decide what we want to keep and what we want to rework. Paint, texture, put the equipment inside. Bob's your uncle. We'll take it out and we'll do some horrible things to the points of interest on Masperon before we leave forever. Just because we've been here for a very long time on a planet that's supposed to be the least hospitable of them all. So we are going to try and make sure that we get as many drill cores as we possibly can before we leave. That's really all I'm interested in at this point. The weapons, I've got loot, I've got medicines, I've got everything that you would get out of a point of interest except for the new drill cores. And the only reason I don't have any is because I haven't rated any points of interest since they were introduced. So for now, we're going to focus on just getting this exterior done. One of the things that I will have to do once everything's taken care of with the appearance on the outside of the vessel is also go around through the inside and kind of shore it up a little bit, give us a little bit of extra protection. That's not necessarily the kind of thing that I'm going to do an episode around because it's not as straightforward to demonstrate as it might seem, and it's not so complicated that I feel that people would be missing out if we weren't to take a close look at it this time around. Maybe in the future with another build we'll take a look at it. With this one, just gonna do it and get it done. You can see we've got kind of this bulky section coming up from the thruster ring, which is fine for the time being. We're probably going to refine it a little bit when we get to the that stage of the build, once we got everything else done. But we've got that profile line that we did from the front to the back, right down the middle, that's showing a slightly different shape than what we're putting in now. And I'm fine with that because those profile lines, they're not rules. They're just guidelines. They're there for us to use or not use depending on what we've got on our mind at the time. Very, very helpful to have, and also very, very helpful to know when to abandon. And in this case, we're just rolling with the particular shape that we're working with. And then we're going to go through and we're going to actually rework the profile line to match what we just made, basically. And that's going to help be that one little line and part of the finished hull that matches with everything else around it. And it should be good. It's be a really straightforward kind of process. We're at this stage now where there's not really a whole lot else to be said in terms of guidelines, rules, tips, tricks, whatever you want to call it, for a build of this nature. Because I try not to have this long list of rules and things. It kind of, for me, undermines the entertainment value of something when I create this giant list of rules for myself, because then I just want to break them. And that's kind of the fun, is having the freedom to do what you want, change your mind on the fly. And that's one of the rules, I guess, that I have, is that, you know, the fewer rules, the better, because that way we don't have to feel like we're breaking rules. We just change our mind on the fly. And in this case, you can see it didn't take much to rework that profile line to bring it up to match what we already had, or what we just finished. And now we match it up with the existing profile line, and Bob's your uncle. It's done. It's taken care of. The other thing that I need to make sure that I'm incorporating as we push back on the design here for the top is that channel that we incorporated in the front top section when we did that part. And just because I like the look of it, it adds a little bit of visual interest without going crazy. And it's definitely something that's going to be included in the final build. If I don't carry it back, it's not going to look right. If it only goes halfway back, it's going to be a little bit awkward. And at the same time, there's part of me that kind of wanted to explore the opportunity to wrap it all the way around the back end, but that gets to be a little bit much when you start worrying about how it's going to meet up with the thruster rings and all those other transitions that would come into play. So we don't have to have it going all the way back and all the way around, but it does make sense that we continue it back farther than it currently is. So now we've got a relatively small section that we have left to fill. You can see right there, that's basically all that we have left to do on the top. And as we've learned, there's so many different builds, the smaller that little section we have left to do, the more challenging it usually becomes to manage all of the transitions that end up happening. We were looking at one block in the last episode. It was just one little block that we had left in a spot that obviously needed a block of some kind, but with all the different angles coming together and all the different faces, it was a block that not only does not exist, but probably never will exist, no matter how many blocks Empyrion adds to the game. It's just one of those transitions where you look at it for a little while and you realize it's not going to work. There's nothing we can do here. So in this case, I'm carrying on with these half blocks, and I like these half blocks. Like, they're literally a full-size block that's been cut in half, side to side or up and down, depending on how you want to look at it. The difficulty with them is that when we use them for large structural elements, the number of blocks that transition smoothly to these half blocks is pretty limited. That also is sort of compounded by the fact that there are so many other blocks that we've had for a long time that we're very comfortable with. It's just quite often so much easier to not use these half blocks for the large structural elements. You can see using it here for the channel is fantastic. It would have been extremely difficult, if not impossible, to pull that off any other way, and it gives us a lot more options in terms of things that we want to put to either side of that channel to make it look like it's got that little half block step down into the channel. It's pretty straightforward what we can do with it. That to me is more of a cosmetic detail, and it's pretty easy to make it come together with anything else that we've got going on the ship. It's when you look at the other areas where we've used them, and we've used them as more of like a wall or a ceiling kind of structural element, that things get a little bit wonky. You can see now we've just got this little tiny rectangular area, right in the middle, that we have to fill in. And this is where all of the transitions just immediately start to go to hell. In this case, it's largely because of the half blocks. You can see now we pulled them out so that we've just got this 2-block wide section that we have to fill in and transition cleanly to those half blocks. Or we could just scrap this section here, get rid of the half blocks, and use blocks that we've been using in the past. And we're comfortable with them. It's a lot easier to visualize how they'll go together, and we don't have to worry about experimenting with the half dozen or so different blocks that probably won't help us, but would still come together with the half blocks in a way to make us want to try. There are a number of different blocks that have that sort of half block thickness now before they go into any kind of detail. There's some angles, some corners specifically that come together with the half blocks. They look so promising when you look at them until you put them beside one of the half blocks in a transition and in a situation like this, and you realize that they're not going to be able to do what you want them to do. So in this case, when you get right down to it, we've messed around with a certain number of blocks and we're looking at the shape and how everything is coming together, and you can't help but realize that it's just not going to work. This is where we say, okay, we're going to rework this. We're going to come up with a new design that we're going to be happy with, and it involves removing all of these half blocks, the ones that we just put into place. It's not a big deal. It's a very quick thing that we can switch things out, come up with the shapes, the all-important shapes that we're going to be happy with. And in this case, I've actually learned, and this is why you see me struggling to get this thing to fit, spinning it around. Sometimes it's not always as easy as you might think to see the different angles and the different faces of these blocks. And what I've been doing a lot lately is actually rotating the block away from the area where I want to place it, just so that it's in a spot where it's easier to see, and then move it into position and place it. And you just saw there, it took me 3 tries to get it lined up by trying to align it in the spot where it was going to end up. But in this case, it's not that big of a deal. We're just about done managing this transition, and we did it by using the basic blocks that we've had for months. And I'm happy with it. The end result, it looks pretty much exactly what I was hoping that it would be. And the whole idea here with this shape is, first of all, relatively smooth, not too many things to draw at the eye, because we've already got that channel that we want people to see and take note of. And very, very straightforward with the half block step down into the channel that's uniform all the way back. That's kind of the goal, and what we needed to do here to make that happen was just keep things simple and not trying to get too elaborate. If we had tried to make it too elaborate, we would have ended up with something that would distract from the channel and all the other stuff that's going on. There's the top of the ship. Roughed in, ready to go. We'll make some tweaks here to see if we come up with something that we like a little bit better than what we had. Next episode, we're going to focus on the side, and then we're going to be focusing on the front of the ship and the air intake, the hole in the front of the air intake vents. And then that'll be the ship basically done. Then all we'll have to do is do the final pass to do all the refinements, make all the modifications that we want just for the sake of appearances, then duplicate it over on the other side of the ship, and we'll be done. So if you want to be notified about the next episode and future episodes, as always, you can subscribe to my channel, or you can follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information section below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.
Morning.